All right, great. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Today, we've got the pleasure and privilege of meeting with my good friend, Vadim. So Vadim and I have been on this entrepreneurial journey together for the last several months, and he's been gracious enough to give us some time to give us some background. So I start these off with the easy question. What's your name, position, company, and industry?
Wow, I didn't realize that this is going to be this kind of conversation. But my name is Vadim Shelkovnikov, and I am the proud owner and CEO and master of everything else for Solobusiness.ca, which is a company that focuses on helping entrepreneurs and specifically nutritionists become successful in their practice when they go online.
Fantastic. So how is it that you find yourself in this industry? I mean, you and I go back probably 7 or 8 years working together, and
so my story is very similar to Greg's, where I have in excess of 20 years of corporate experience across different companies, but I always stay close to customer or consumer or human being and why we act the way we act. Through the course of the last year, a bunch of things happened in my previous role, and I got let go. Now, when I got let go, it was one of those forks in your life when you decide, are you going to go back for a job, or are you going to do something yourself, or are you going to just stay in the middle and hum? So I decided to go on my own. And this is not the first time I'm going out on my own, because my wife and I had a business which we ran for 6 years in the 2010s. And so this is not an uncharted territory. And the reason I wanted to go on my own is because in the past, I was blessed enough to find myself at the crossroads of a different kind. I know a lot about data and analytics. I know a lot about customer, and I know a lot about marketing. And all of that knowledge is very well suited to people who are trying to start up their businesses and do not have that experience. In fact, a lot of people try to make it very complicated. And I think this is the purpose of this call, is to go into some of those details. A lot of people try to make it very complicated and make it sound as if starting a business is something only a coach can help you with, which is partially true. But I tend to believe that if you arm people with the right information, they're able to fend for themselves.
Excellent. One of the purposes of this call too is to demystify some industries in terms of their terminology and stuff. I mean, here you've got both technology and holistic nutrition kind of terminology. So maybe give us some examples of specific terminology that you come across that the average person wouldn't really know what you're talking about.
Well, in the startup world, you deal with all sorts of acronyms and different terms. Marketing specifically, something that comes to mind is CRM, CRO, KPIs, OKRs, OGSM, and acronyms just keep piling on top of one another. They can all be demystified. So CRM is customer relationship management. It's the process of how do you continuously attract, delight, and retain your customers through when they interact with your business. Another one I threw out there was CRO, which is conversion rate optimization. In human terms, what it means is, how do you get people to engage with your emails or a lead magnet that you're putting out? Okay, let's talk about that. Lead magnet is another term which you might have heard about, but not really sure what that means. A lead magnet is very simple. It's a piece of free content that you give away in exchange for another person's email. It should be valuable so that the person doesn't feel like you've cheated them into something. What other things exist? Actually, terminology is abound. Even sometimes when you talk to people and you describe an email campaign and you say, so what's your open rate? The hell is an open rate? It's just a ratio of how many emails you sent out versus how many were open. And they're very important because that shows if people like what you're sending them, or if people can even find what you're sending them, because otherwise it's landing in that junk folder, which is something you don't want to do. And this is just a slice. This is just an example, because Marketing is one aspect. You talk about business and you talk about financials, then you get into what's net income, what's the cost of goods, or what's your run rate, what's your profitability margin, and it becomes overwhelming. I'm not gonna go explaining, unless you want me to, Greg. I'm not gonna go into explaining every one of those terms.
No. We should make people buy your course for that.
Oh yes, please. The thing is, most of those terms they exist because people found them to be an accurate representation of a specific process or a specific feature or a specific metric. And everyone got used to them. But if you're just new and you're just starting out and you've never heard it before, it sounds overwhelming. And this is going to be a shameless plug. One of the things that I teach in my course, and I'm trying to not so much dumb it down, but I'm trying to humanize those terms. So instead of saying profit, well, that's the money you take home. This is the money in your pocket. Instead of revenue, well, this is how much you got from a client for your course. And once you get down to the level of normal human talk, then they become second nature after a while. But at first, yes, they are overwhelming, and there are tons of them. Like I said, finance, marketing, technology. Oh my gosh, technology has its own set of wonderful terms, which API. What's an API? Greg, what's an API?
Application process, something, I don't know.
Interface.
Interface. There.
But I don't think it's process. I think it's something else. But that's the point. Sometimes you even have acronyms, which you know what they mean, kind of what they do, but you can't even decipher them.
Yeah.
All of this to say, there's quite a lot, and it can be disorienting for somebody who's new. But if you're listening to this, my guidance would be, don't be. Every single acronym you can look up on Google, and if that doesn't help, well, find Greg, find me.
Yeah, ask somebody. That's what I used to go to meetings, and people would be talking, and they'd say something I didn't understand. I'd say, "What does that mean?" And everyone would just look at each other and they go, "Oh crap, he caught on."
Exactly. In fact, I think it's very bad. It's a very bad tradition to use acronyms as if everyone around the table or everyone on a call knows what they mean.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to call people out and say, that's the first time I'm meeting that acronym. Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you already touched on some of the KPIs and how success is measured with some of the things you talked about, like open rates and so on. But, overall in your industry, how is success measured? What KPIs do you use?
Well, let's in the spirit of simplicity, let's take it a step back. Forget the emails, forget the details. Those are nuances. Those are the ways you do business. I mean, at the very top, I deal with nutritionists. The nutritionist is starting a practice, and they have a lot of passion to help others be better versions of themselves through the food that they eat. So if that's the premise, you measure your success on essentially two big factors. One, it's how much money you make, because that pays your bills, that gives you the ability to do what you want to do. And two is how many people have a positive experience with you, whether they left a testimonial or provided some feedback, or even better, referred somebody to you. So those are the two things. And they're kind of the sides of the same coin, because if you provide excellent service and people are willing to recommend you, that means you have been paid. And if you've been paid, you're in a better position to expand your business and help even more people, which in turn provides. So it's a bit of a flywheel effect.
Excellent. I guess there's, again, two sides of the business. One is the nutrition side, one is the online tech side. But if you had to describe, what are the top skills required to be successful doing what you're doing?
Patience. Oh, sorry, dealing what I'm doing. Well, yeah, still, I would still stay with patience.
Yeah.
Patience and I guess natural curiosity. So I'm one of the people who never found it difficult to assemble IKEA furniture.
You do kind of look like that stick man that's it's in those.
Yeah, thanks. But that does point to a specific trait where I can figure things out. And patience is what I need is when I'm helping my clients, because for some, and actually for most people on the planet, some of the things that I find exciting and interesting are just grueling and painful. So I need patience to be successful, because I need to always remind myself that I should not be measuring abilities and successes of others by my experience and by my perspective. Because truth be told, I know tech, but nutritionists have sat through years in their universities, respective schools and colleges, going through something like microchemistry or biodome of the gut, like something I would never be able to comprehend.
Yeah, for sure. So, and on the nutritionist side of things, what are the top skills that those folks need to succeed?
Well, I'll tell you the two skills that I find that most people lack. One is the ability to shamelessly promote themselves. And I use the word shamelessly for more of to put an accent on the necessity to promote yourself. So that's one. And two, the the business owner mentality. I had a poll in with some of my clients, and I asked them, "How do you refer to yourself? Do you refer to yourself as a holistic nutritionist, or do you refer to yourself as a business owner?" Everyone, and this was a small group of people. This was less than 12 people. Everyone said a holistic nutritionist. So people don't. If you don't think of yourself as a business owner, that limits the avenues um, of how you can make money. And I know it sounds crude. It's kind of like, well, we're all about helping people. True, but you can't really help people unless you're in a profitable niche business, blah, blah, blah. And those are the two things. So the ability to promote yourself, because nutritionists have what people need, but they feel sometimes awkward saying that they have this knowledge,
Yeah,
they're able to provide this help. And two, thinking of yourself as a business owner first.
very good advice. Um, Segueing into advice, if you had one thing that you could tell either an entrepreneur or a holistic nutritionist, or maybe you can do one of each, what would be your best advice?
Best advice. It's always interesting, because best advice in my head changes day by day. The best advice really is invest in yourself. Invest in yourself, because if you think that you are able to figure everything out by yourself, it's probably the biggest fallacy that you can come up with. I found it. I honestly, I'll tell you, I found it the hard way, because I tend to do everything myself, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to spend some money here. I'm going to save it. Didn't quite work out. I subscribed to a course which is leading me through some of the steps that I need to be better at what I do. And I'm finding that that is way more efficient than stumbling around in the proverbial dark trying to find an answer to the question that you have. Um, it's not always easy, and we tend to, especially when we're just starting out, we tend to be preserving whatever we spend on. But investing in yourself is always a positive thing, because it can provide support in many different ways than just business.
Excellent. The next question is about the pandemic, and obviously the in the context of innovation and processes and things that have been implemented during the pandemic because of all the restrictions and so on. And what are the implications of those things in terms of them sticking around after the pandemic is over? Obviously, in an online practice, you hate to say it, but you couldn't ask for a better circumstance than a pandemic to move technology forward. What do you see the coming out of the pandemic, things that are going to stick around that have been a result of the pandemic?
Um, Well, one of the major things that I talk with all of my clients, and my wife is actually a holistic nutritionist as well, so she's seeing the benefits of it as well. Previously, the norm was you go to see a practitioner and you sit down one-on-one in a room and you talk about whatever is bothering you, and then you continue that course of engagement. Right now, you don't have to do that. In fact, right now, it doesn't even matter where your practitioner is, as long as you trust them or you have very good referrals, testimonials for that person, and you decided to trust them. As long as they speak your language, you no longer have the geographic barriers of where you can practice. If previously practitioners were thinking of themselves, oh, I practice in city A, and that's kind of my playground. Right now, they practice in the world of whoever speaks name a language. And this is a big shift because most people don't think of it that way. Uh, sometimes they're afraid of to think of it that way, but it certainly is one of the. I don't want to use the word positives that came out of the pandemic. The reason that I'm not saying it's 100% positive is because it also, you do lose that personal connection over like what we are doing right now over Zoom, but it definitely presents a massive opportunity for business and practice building.
Excellent. Part of the notion of this series is to help people figure out how to get experience, one, exposure to information and stuff that we've just shared. And the other one is there practical methods of people to get experience, whether it's volunteering or finding things online, things like that. Is there anything you would suggest to people who are interested in either, entrepreneurship and starting an online business, or getting into the nutritional, holistic nutrition space, where they could get tangible experience on a volunteer basis?
Right. I would not recommend volunteering for nutritionists. One, there are two parts of it. There's a liability part, because whenever you're coaching people on what they're supposed to be eating and how they're supposed to be living their life, you need to have insurance. So it should not be done just on a volunteer basis. But if you do want to learn about business, definitely go to YouTube. This is how a lot of people begin. And you'll find that there's a lot of garbage. And by garbage, I mean information that's being presented in a way that you cannot make heads or tails of. And then you'll find people who you'll gravitate to who do make a lot of sense. They present interesting concepts in a simplistic way. Their descriptions are clear, and you begin to understand what is it that you need to do. Two words of caution. One is, when people begin, even myself, I talked about simplicity. When people begin to simplify, everything seems very easy. Oh, just do this and you will have a practice. You'll find that that's not how it works. Simplicity is brought forward to entice you to continue to listen rather than be overwhelmed. And then the second one is, if you're listening about a particular solution or a software product or, well, any product whatsoever, make sure that you take it with a grain of salt, because just like me, just like Greg, we are affiliates of certain products, and we're very happy to talk extensively about them. Some people take it to the next level where they talk as if this product, if this software is the next best thing since sliced bread. Just understand that it might be, but take it with a grain of salt.
Great. Awesome. Well, that's all the questions we have. You've been a fountain of information as always. So I really appreciate your time.
I certainly have. Thank you for having me, Greg. This has been an exciting experience.
All right. Well, we'll catch you again soon. Thanks a lot, Vadim.
Absolutely.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.